Before you decide to stop listening, I need you to understand something. This is not a story about ghosts. It's about what happens when something pretends to be family, when it learns your blood, your name, your weaknesses, and waits. In a small town in rural Louisiana, there was a house at the edge of the woods. People prayed there. People believed there. And one night, that house asked for blood. Not because it hated them, but because they loved it enough to obey. The man I love sat in a wooden chair every night at the same hour, his eyes open, his body breathing, while something else spoke through his mouth. It told the truth. It predicted danger. It protected the house. And slowly, it replaced choice with fear. By the time we realized it wasn't an ancestor, hundreds of animals were dead. A family was broken, and something ancient had learned a new name. I'm telling you this now, because the darkest part of this story is not the possession, not the rituals, not even the blood. It's the moment you realize you would have believed too. So stay with me, listen carefully, and remember, some things don't haunt houses, they inherit them. My name is Noah, and what you're about to hear is not a ghost story I found online, not a legend passed down for entertainment. It is something I lived through, something that almost took the man I love away from me. This happened years ago in a small rural town in Louisiana, the kind of place where the road narrows without warning, where streetlights stop appearing after sundown, and where the woods don't feel empty. They feel watchful. Lucas and I had been together for almost 2 years at that point. We were young. I was 22, Lucas 25, and openly a couple. Both of our families knew. Both of our families accepted us. No secrecy, no shame, which is why what happened later hurt even more. Lucas grew up in a large wooden house sitting right at the edge of the forest, not deep inside it, but close enough that, at night, the trees seemed to lean toward the windows. The house had been there for generations. You could tell. The wood was darkened by age. The floorboards creaked even when no one was walking, and the air inside always carried a strange mix of incense and something older, something damp, something buried. Out front, right before the dirt road met the yard, stood a small shrine. It wasn't unusual in theory, but in that part of Louisiana, it was rare. A weathered wooden structure, offerings inside, burned down candles replaced again and again, and inside the house, that was where things truly felt wrong. In the main living room, against the far wall, stood 2 altars. One was a Christian altar, a wooden cross, a Bible, images of saints. The other was an ancestral altar, side by side, not blended, not symbolic. They stood like 2 belief systems forced to coexist, staring at each other across the same room. The first time I noticed it, I laughed nervously and asked Lucas, "Is that normal here?" Lucas didn't laugh back. He hesitated, then said quietly, "My mom says it's how our family survives." Helen, Lucas's mother, was a gentle woman, soft-spoken, always tired, but there was something about her eyes. Sometimes, when she stared at you too long, it felt like she wasn't fully there. Lucas told me early on about her condition. He didn't call it possession. He called it the family gift. Helen would sometimes enter a trance. She would sit perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing shallow, and then her voice would change. Not louder, not harsher, just not hers. The first time I witnessed it, I didn't even realize what was happening. We were sitting in the living room. Michael, Lucas's older brother, was fixing something near the door. Sarah, the youngest, was scrolling on her phone. Helen was sitting in her chair. Then suddenly, she stopped blinking. Her hands went limp. Her chin lowered slightly, and the room went quiet. Too quiet. Then she spoke. She called Michael by a childhood nickname no one used anymore. She mentioned an argument from before Lucas was even born. She corrected Sarah about the exact spot their grandfather used to hide money in the house. Details, specifics, things no outsider could know. My stomach tightened. I looked at Lucas. He wasn't surprised. He looked resigned. Afterwards, Helen came back slowly, disoriented, exhausted. She didn't remember everything she had said. She only knew one thing. They came back again. 4 years, she had allowed it. She believed the spirits were ancestors, watching, guiding, protecting the family. She believed it was her duty to receive them. But then, the money problems began. Bad investments, debt piling up, the weight of responsibility crushing her. And slowly, Helen began to resist. She started staying out late, avoiding the house at night, avoiding the altars, avoiding them. Lucas told me one evening, in a whisper, "She says if she ignores them long enough, they'll leave." But his voice shook, as if even saying that aloud was dangerous. That night, the night everything changed, Lucas and I were asleep in his old bedroom. The forest outside was silent, too silent. No crickets, no wind. Then Lucas started yawning, again, and again, and again. Deep, unnatural yawns, like he couldn't pull enough air into his lungs. His skin turned cold, ice cold. I touched his arm and flinched. "Noah," he whispered, "I feel weird." Before I could respond, we heard footsteps. Slow, measured. Helen stood in the doorway. Her face went pale. She took one look at Lucas and whispered words that still echo in my head to this day. "They found him." Helen didn't scream. She didn't rush toward the bed. She just stood there, motionless, as if she had seen this moment in her nightmares long before it finally arrived. "They chose him," she said quietly. "Not might have, not are trying to, chose." Lucas was shaking, not violently, not yet. It was worse than that. His body lay stiff against the mattress, jaw clenched, breath coming in short, shallow bursts. His eyes stared at the ceiling, wide open, unblinking. I tried to sit him up. His skin felt wrong. Not just cold, but empty, like warmth had been drained out of him from the inside. "Lucas," I whispered. "Look at me." No response. Helen stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. Softly, deliberately. like someone sealing a space they knew would soon become dangerous. She pressed her palm to Lucas's chest. Her hand trembled. "It's starting earlier than before," she murmured. She turned to me. Her eyes, for the first time since I had known her, were full of fear. "You need to help me," she said. "Do exactly what I tell you. Don't argue. Don't question." I nodded, because in that moment, something deep inside me knew. This wasn't a medical emergency. This was something else. Helen told me to bring the ceremonial clothes from the wardrobe in the hall. White shirt, dark pants, a thin cord tied at the waist. "Clothes for receiving," she said. Lucas didn't resist as we dressed him. That terrified me more than if he had screamed. His body obeyed, but he wasn't there. We led him into the living room. The house felt different now. The air was thick, heavy, like breathing through damp cloth. The ancestral altar candles were already lit. Helen swore she hadn't touched them. She positioned Lucas on the wooden chair directly facing the altar. His feet touched the floor, but they didn't rest naturally. They pointed inward. Wrong. Helen knelt. She whispered prayers I didn't recognize. Not Christian. Not anything I had ever heard. Old words, spoken carefully, as if pronunciation mattered more than meaning. Then, Lucas yawned again. One long, impossible yawn. His jaw stretched wider than it should have. And when he exhaled, his voice came out, but it wasn't his. "We waited," the voice said. Low, measured, plural. Helen froze. Her head bowed lower. "I know," she replied. "I was tired." The thing inside Lucas laughed. A dry sound. "No," it said. "You were afraid." I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only watch as my boyfriend, the man I loved, sat there like a hollow shell, mouth moving to someone else's rhythm. "We are the ancestors," the voice continued. "We guarded this blood, this land, this house." Helen's hands clenched into fists. "I didn't abandon you," she said. "I just needed time." You turned your back. The candles flickered. Not from wind. There was no wind. You refused to receive us. You refused to listen. You refused to serve. Helen's voice cracked. I couldn't anymore. Silence. Heavy. Pressing. Then the voice changed. It sharpened. "So he will." Helen gasped. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. "No," she whispered. "Not my son." The thing inside Lucas turned its head slowly. Too slowly. His eyes met mine. And I swear, they weren't human anymore. "He is young," the voice said. "Open. Strong. Untainted by resistance." Lucas's lips curved into a smile that made my stomach turn. "He will receive us, night after night, as you once did." I broke. I screamed Lucas's name. I rushed forward. Helen grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "Don't," she hissed. "They don't like interference." The candles flared brighter. Lucas's body convulsed once, hard, then went still. When it was over, he collapsed forward, breathing ragged, soaked in sweat. Helen rushed to him, held his face, cried without sound. Lucas woke up confused, weak, with no memory of what he had said. Only one thing stayed with him. He looked at me and whispered, "I feel like something's still holding on." That night, none of us slept, and deep in my chest, a terrible understanding took root. The spirits hadn't just visited, they had claimed him. After the first possession, nothing was the same. Not the house, not Lucas, not even the silence. At first, we told ourselves it had been a single event, a breaking point, a one-time crossing, that if we stayed alert, if Helen took better care of herself, if we prayed more, it wouldn't happen again. We were wrong. The second time happened 3 nights later, at 11:47 p.m. I remember the time because I checked my phone when Lucas started yawning again. The same deep yawns, the same hollow breathing, like his lungs were filling with cold air instead of oxygen. Helen didn't hesitate this time. She didn't pretend. She didn't hope. She only said one sentence, "It's the hour." From that night on, they came back every night, always within the same narrow window, 11:40 to 12:10, never earlier, never later, like an appointment. Lucas's body learned the routine faster than his mind did. He would grow quiet as the hour approached. His shoulders would tense. His eyes would lose focus. Sometimes he cried. Sometimes he apologized. "I don't want this," he told me once, gripping my hand so hard my fingers went numb. "I don't want them inside me." But wanting didn't matter. By the 3rd week, Lucas stopped going to work. He couldn't stay awake during the day. His skin dulled. His weight dropped. Dark shadows settled under his eyes like bruises that never healed. Every night, he sat in the chair. Every night, the candles lit themselves. And every night, the voices returned. They didn't always speak as one anymore. Sometimes they argued. Sometimes they whispered over each other. Fragments of speech, names, dates, accusations. Helen listened. Michael listened. Sarah listened. And slowly, they stopped questioning. The voices knew too much. They spoke of debts long forgiven, of secrets buried in the ground behind the house, of promises made by dead men whose graves we could point to in the old cemetery. Once, the voice laughed and said, "Blood remembers." Lucas remembered nothing afterward. Only exhaustion, only pain. Sometimes he woke up screaming. Sometimes he woke up numb. Once, he woke up with dried blood under his fingernails. He didn't know where it came from. Neither did we. I begged Helen to stop, to call a doctor, a priest, anyone. She looked at me with hollow eyes. "If we stop them," she said, "they'll punish him." The house began to change. Small things at first. The temperature dropped in certain rooms. Shadows lingered where no light should allow them. The smell of incense never fully left, even when nothing burned. At exactly 11:45 p.m. every night, the forest went quiet. No insects, no wind, no movement, like the world itself was holding its breath. Lucas noticed it too. One evening, just before the hour, he whispered, "They're standing outside." I followed his gaze. The windows showed only darkness, but I felt it. A pressure, as if something waited just beyond the glass, listening. By the end of the month, Lucas was no longer just a vessel. He was a fixture. The chair, the altar, the hour, all part of the same structure. And then, one night, the voice changed. It was deeper, slower, older. When it spoke, the other voices fell silent. "I am not like the others," it said. "I am the first." Helen stiffened. Her breath hitched. She whispered a name I had never heard before. "I am the old man," the voice continued. "The one whose bones were laid before this house had a name." The candles burned higher. The air thickened until my chest hurt. "I have watched you forget us," the old man said. "I have watched you neglect the rites." His gaze shifted, directly to me, through Lucas's eyes. "And now," it said softly, "I will be remembered again." In that moment, I understood something terrifying. The ancestors had been content with possession, but this one wanted devotion. After that night, the house was no longer just ours. The old man returned the very next evening, earlier than expected. At 11:32 p.m., the candles flared without being lit. Lucas's body stiffened as if pulled by invisible strings, and when he spoke, there was no chorus, no overlap, just one voice, ancient, certain. "You will prepare a place for me," the old man said, "not beside the others." Helen's hands shook. "Where?" she asked. "Outside," the voice replied, "where they can come." The next morning, Michael built the shrine, not because he wanted to, but because none of us slept until he agreed. It stood near the edge of the yard, closer to the woods than the house. A rough wooden table, old boards, cleaned carefully, candles placed with unsettling precision. The old man approved. That night, he spoke longer. He told stories about the land before roads, before property lines, before the dead were buried with names. And people listened. It started with neighbors. One, then two. Word traveled quietly, not online, not in newspapers, through whispers, through church parking lots, through late-night conversations. "There's a man who knows things," they said. "He doesn't ask for money. He just listens." They came after dark. They sat in the yard, and Lucas, pale, exhausted, sat at the shrine. When the hour struck, the old man arrived. He spoke truths no one else knew. A woman's long-dead brother, a hidden affair from 40 years ago, a missing deed buried behind a shed. People cried, people prayed, people believed. I watched from the doorway, my stomach twisted, because every time the old man spoke, Lucas faded. He ate less, he slept less, his hands shook even during the day, and sometimes, when I said his name, he didn't answer right away. One night, the old man raised a hand through Lucas's body. Tonight, he said, I give warning. The crowd leaned forward. The candles flickered. Before dawn, he continued, someone will test this house. Lock your doors, he said calmly, and be grateful I am watching. At 3:14 a.m., glass shattered. A man was caught trying to force the back door. Michael chased him off with a shotgun. The sheriff came, took a report. By sunrise, everyone knew. The old man's words had come true. Faith hardened into certainty. But certainty demands more. A week later, the old man spoke again. This time, his tone was different, displeased. You disturbed the ground, he said. Helen frowned. We're building a new foundation, she replied, for the shed. Silence. Then, you touched the old dead. The candles hissed. They are angry, the old man said. They remember fire. My chest tightened. What kind of fire? I asked. Lucas's head snapped toward me, eyes black in the candlelight. The kind that eats houses, the old man answered. Fear spread like smoke. To be spared, the old man continued, you will show obedience. That night, he gave instructions. The power must be cut. The house must go dark. The family must sit outside until morning, praying, begging, and something else, something worse. For every wrong bone disturbed, he said softly, a life must be given. The yard fell silent. Hundreds of chickens waited in their pens. And no one dared ask, what would happen if we refused? The power was cut just before midnight. The house went dark all at once. No hum of electricity, no ticking clocks, no distant sounds of life, only candles, only breath. We sat outside in the yard, exactly as instructed. Helen, Michael, Sarah, Lucas, and me. The shrine glowed faintly near the tree-line. The forest watched. The old man arrived on time. Lucas's body jerked once, violently, then went still. When he spoke, his voice carried easily through the darkness. You will remain seated, he said. You will not look away. The first chicken screamed, high-pitched, panicked. The sound cut through the night like a blade. Michael hesitated. His hands shook. The old man laughed softly. Do you remember fire? The voice asked. Because the ground does. The knife fell. Blood soaked into the dirt. I lost count after the first dozen. The smell was unbearable. Hot. Metallic. Sweet. It clung to the air, to our clothes, to the inside of my mouth. Lucas didn't blink. Not once. Each time a body went still, the old man whispered approval. Yes. Good. They see you now. Hours passed. My knees went numb. My stomach cramped. Sarah vomited silently into the grass. Helen whispered prayers until her voice cracked and vanished. When it was finally over, the yard was stained dark. The candles burned low, and the old man sighed, content. It is done, he said. For now. Lucas collapsed. His body hit the ground like dead weight. I ran to him. He was alive. Barely. The next morning, the house smelled wrong. Not death. Worse. Something satisfied. Lucas didn't wake up until afternoon. When he did, he cried. Not loudly. Not hysterically. Just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. "I can feel them," he whispered. "They're still here." That was when Eleanor arrived. No warning. No call. Just her old car pulling into the driveway. She stepped out slowly. Thin. Straight-backed. Eyes sharp as knives. She took one look at the yard. At the blood. At the shrine. And her face hardened. "What have you done?" she asked. No fear. No hesitation. Only anger. Helen tried to explain. Ancestors. Protection. Fire. Eleanor raised a hand. Silence fell instantly. "No true ancestor," she said coldly, "demands blood to protect their own." The words hit the air like a slap. She turned to Lucas, touched his face gently, closed her eyes. "What answers you," Eleanor said, "is not family." The candles flickered violently. The old man's voice hissed from the shrine. "Old woman," it spat, "you do not belong here." Eleanor opened her eyes, unmoved. "I have lived long enough," she replied, "to know the difference between the dead and the hungry." The old man screamed, not through Lucas, from everywhere. That night, Eleanor packed Lucas's things herself. She didn't ask permission. She didn't argue. She simply said, "He leaves with me." And for the first time, the old man didn't stop her. Because something else had entered the house. Something that did not bow. We left Louisiana before dawn. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just Eleanor's old car cutting through the fog as the forest faded behind us. Lucas barely spoke. He sat in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. Sometimes, his lips moved silently, as if answering someone only he could hear. New Mexico felt unreal. Dry air, open land, endless sky, the opposite of the woods. Eleanor took us to a small adobe house far from any town. No shrine, no altar, just wind and sunlight. The medium arrived before sunset. An older man, quiet. He didn't ask for details. He didn't need them. The moment he looked at Lucas, his expression darkened. "These are not ancestors," he said calmly. "They never were." Lucas trembled. "What are they?" I asked. "Hungry things," the man replied. "Leftovers, echoes, pretenders." He explained slowly how some entities attach themselves to bloodlines, how they wear familiar names to gain trust, how devotion feeds them more than fear. "They don't protect," he said. "They consume." The ritual lasted 3 nights. No blood, no darkness, only light, salt, water, breath. Lucas screamed the first night. Not words, not sentences, just raw sound. The second night, the voices begged, through him, promising protection, threatening loss. The third night, they lied, claimed love. Eleanor never moved. never spoke. She just watched, unyielding. At dawn of the fourth day, Lucas slept. Real sleep, the kind that reaches deep. When he woke, his eyes were his again. Back in Louisiana, the family dismantled everything. The shrine, the altars, the offerings. The ground was blessed, the house cleansed. The forest grew noisy again. Crickets returned. Wind moved freely. The old man never spoke again. Lucas healed. Slowly, fully. The yawning stopped. The hour passed unnoticed. But sometimes, in quiet moments, he still grips my hand and whispers, "They remember." Because some things, when starved, do not forgive. They only wait. Lucas and I are still together. We survived, but we don't visit that house anymore. And if you ever pass through a rural town and see a shrine at the edge of the woods, unattended, waiting, don't stop.